You're listening to Season 5 of the Devoted Dreamers podcast. Welcome, Dreamer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Merritt Ansa, and this is the podcast where we talk about our God-shaped dreams, the ones we're pursuing, hoping to pursue, or waiting on God to reveal. I don't know you yet, but I hope to, and my hope with this podcast is to help you move from uncertainty to action so that your life might sing, that it might sing praises to God for your good and His glory, because He made you for big things. But the more I talk with women about their dreams, the more I understand there's a battle within. Is it okay to be ambitious, to dream, to do something with our skills, gifts, and experiences? If you're struggling with this, don't listen to me. Go read God's Word, specifically Ephesians 1, and let the God of the universe remind you that you were chosen for a purpose, in order that you might live for the praise of His glory. Sure, you might feel some fear, anxiety, insecurity walking forward in your dream, but don't let those things stop you. We all feel them to some extent, and you cannot let those feelings, or the voices that tell you you have no business dreaming this dream, you cannot let them win, because you are a daughter of the King. And that's why we're having this conversation. I pray it's what you hear today in this episode. Thank you so much for joining in. As always, you'll find the show notes at merrittansa.com/podcast. And please connect with me and the community of devoted dreamers in our Facebook group or over on Instagram at merrittjo. And now, here's today's episode. Hey, devoted dreamers, welcome to the podcast and welcome to episode 114, where I am bringing back Amber Brannon, who was a guest on the podcast basically 2 years ago, February 2017, episode 32. So if you have missed that one, please go back and listen to it. But Amber is here today to share just what God has done in her journey in the last 2 years. And I'm super excited about it. We've just been chit-chatting offline and sharing just how excited we both are about getting to talk again. But little summary, Amber, we met through a previous guest on the podcast, Sarah Hale, way back in the beginning. Amber's a graphic designer, and I have to attribute my beautiful branding to her. She did all that work a couple years back, and I'm still in love with it. And I don't want to reveal too much of your story, Amber, so maybe I'll just say, hi, welcome, and you can share some too.
Sounds great.
Although I was looking at your bio, you're a self-confessed coffee chocoholic. I think I'm kind of there too. Yeah. I think I'm there with you.
We can relate.
We can totally relate.
All the chocolate.
All the chocolate, yeah.
Sprinkle in some wine. Jesus made water into wine, so we just
Yes, and one thing I didn't want to miss from your bio, which I read this again and I was like, yes, this is so you. It says that you want to unleash stunning design on the world, and you really are doing that. I mean, from the moment I kind of began stalking you online, I was like, oh yeah, her stuff is so beautiful and really well done. And so I think you do have a gift, and I'm thrilled that you're sharing that with me and with the world. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know it's when I think one of the questions that you asked in the show notes before I hopped on here was talking about like God-given gifts and, what that looks like. I'm like, definitely creativity. Mm-hmm. But as I've gone through my journey, it's also a lover of people. And it's been really interesting of how those have merged together to where I am today.
Yeah. So talk about that. Like, what is different? Let's start specifically in your business, since we talked in early 2017.
Yeah. Woo.
A lot, right?
Yeah. Well, because I quit my full-time job September of 2016. And that was like the biggest scary jump I'm pretty sure that I've ever made in my entire life. And the trust and fear and all the emotions. I know I listened back to our old episode before hopping on here, and I think I said it was a roller coaster like 500 times in that episode. I stopped counting. I was like, please stop saying this. But it really is. There's no other word to describe that season besides the highest highs and the lowest lows. But yeah, so in September 2016, quit my job. We chatted literally like 3 months after that. I'll keep it business wise. And then it had been a year from September. So September 2017, I had grown my team. I had started working with a lot more clients. When we were doing projects, I was pulling in relationships that I had from other agencies, and I started almost forming this like dream team. And I realized that we were operating under my business name at the time, which was Amber Brannon Design. And we would hop on calls and clients would say, wait, are you Amber? And she'd say, no, I'm Carrie. Are you Amber? No, I'm Heather. And so there was this mass confusion and then I'd hop on and be like, hi, I'm Amber. So there was a big confusion for the clients. And then also I realized that I was building something that was bigger than myself. So it definitely wasn't intentionally done. But when I brought all these people together, I knew that I couldn't be the face of it anymore. I knew that it needed to be a team effort. And so that's when we created Copperheart Creative. And the copper actually, like the name of my business came from copper is stronger when it's mixed with other metals. And so we are stronger as a team when I bring in other contractors, other creatives to serve clients, to work on projects bigger than we ever could ourselves. And then the heart from that was when I first started designing, part of my story and how I got started and felt that call from God was creating the tagline of I design with heart for people with heart. And now backtrack that I became we, and now my team and I are designing with heart for people with heart. So it's been a roller coaster, but it's insane to see how those terrifying moments and listening back to that previous podcast of almost 2 years ago and where it's all grown from now. So now coming into 2019, crazy to even say that, growing my team more. We're working with a lot more of refined clients and finding a niche of the people that we like to work with, not necessarily the businesses. So before, when we first talked, I was taking anything I could get, saying yes to literally everything, and really trying to balance self-care, which I'm still working on. But it's just interesting to see how much has really changed in the past 2 years and how much I've grown, and God just provides. It's been great.
Yeah. And it's funny. I listened to it as well, that episode, and I feel like I had kind of forgotten that you were so new in the freelance world when we talked. I mean, you just said a minute ago, like, it was just like 3 months later that I interviewed you and we were talking about quitting your job and going out on your own. And now here we are. You have kind of your own, not kind of, you have your own design agency. And and it's beautiful. You guys do incredible work. And I love your, like, the story behind your name and the types of clients that you guys look for. And I mean, it sounds like it's been a success, right?
Yeah. On a good day.
Okay, so you said it. Let's talk. What does a bad day look like? Like, what have been some of the challenges of doing this?
To any entrepreneur or anyone chasing their dream, I just feel like the world tries to attack you. And when you're doing what you're called to do, people are going to come at you in different ways. Whether that's challenging situations with coworkers, challenging situations with clients, just outside people trying to steal your joy. I mean, there's so many scenarios that come in that can sour that. But I think the best thing that I've learned over the past couple of years is just staying proud and staying humble and staying thoughtful. And that's okay that, we don't align with your thoughts, but this is the way that I'm called to move and the way that the company is moving. So if you can't jump on board, then that's okay. But before I would let all of that that toxic feelings and how all of that just I just was consumed by it. I would take everything into account. And now I'm so firm with where I am and my faith and my relationships and my business that I'm flexible and nimble enough to move, but I also I can brush off. I've gotten thicker skin, I guess.
Mm. And has the decision to be really clear on who you guys are and the types of clients you want to work with, like, has that put you in a position to say no to certain projects?
Absolutely. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that we always guide our clients through is the branding process and who's your target audience, who you're trying to attract and tackling that market. And it's been really interesting. We actually had to walk ourselves through that process to learn what wasn't a good fit anymore. And clients that were a good fit 2 years ago aren't really a good fit for us now because we've learned how we can work within our means and streamline and seeing the strengths on our team and tackling those and trying to find the right target audience for that. So before we were doing a little bit of everything, and now we're mainly sticking with branding. So we're specializing in what we did with you. So walking clients through that. Who am I? Who am I trying to attract? Where are my passions? Where are our best services and products? And who wants to buy those? And then going after that. So we always say that we find the heartbeat of your business and then we brand it to that.
Well, you definitely did that for me. So thank you.
Of course. We love your brand. We post about it all the time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
We'll talk a little bit about, I'll just say this term that you shared with me, the live lighter, like that, how that has kind of moved into who you are today. How are you living lighter?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to try not to cry. I'm pretty sure I cried in our last episode, so I need to redeem myself.
Crying is good.
I know, all the feelings. So yeah, I went through a course. I had really started doing a lot of business coaching over the past year, just because I knew that I was growing, but I didn't know which way I was going. So working with high-level business coaches, taking a lot of those courses and just walking through not just business coaching, but business coaches that also had a little bit of life coaching in there because you know this, once you're doing something, whether it's your side hustle, your full-time, or you're starting something, it consumes every aspect of your life. And the balance of that had really kind of fallen to the wayside. And I took this course and it was Empowered You. So it was talking about being secure in yourself and running your business with excellence, but also taking care of yourself and all of that. And it just spoke to me so much. And the program was ran by a friend, Devin Danielle. And it was just the most incredible aha Jesus moment that I've had in a long time. I would even say in my entire life. So when we started the course, it was a 5 weeks course and we had to set our intentions. And everyone else was also creative entrepreneurs in the group. So it was really great. We all really related to each other. And everyone was setting goals like to maintain a new routine or to grow revenue or be back in control of my process. And for some reason, when I kept journaling about this and trying to figure out what my intention could be for this next 5 weeks, for some reason, the word lighter kept coming into my mind, and I had no idea why. So I said that my intention was to live lighter. And I kind of like chuckled after it because I'm like, that's still, it just sounds so silly next to all of these business goals. And so I wasn't really sure what that meant, but I love when you can feel that like push from God. Like, it wouldn't have kept popping into my head if it wouldn't have been him planting it there. And so when you feel that like comforting, just that little nudge of just God saying like, follow through and this is the way. So it was really interesting to kind of walk through that because I was wrestling with it myself. So feeling a little silly saying that. And then when obviously Devin, who was running the program, she was like, what does that mean to live lighter? And I was like, I don't know yet. I'll let you know when I figure out. But I had thought about maybe it was something with, decluttering or my weight at the time, like living lighter and eating healthier. If it was something about carrying the weight of the world. Before that, I had had a couple of my first ever panic attacks, and I'd never really experienced anything like that before. And I just realized I was carrying all that stress of other people's feelings and anxiety and all of the things with me every single day. And I just weighed myself down. So I wasn't sure if it was, living lighter and letting go of some of that stuff. So I really wasn't sure. And then a couple weeks later, it was probably halfway through the course, maybe a little bit farther. I always have my morning coffee with Jesus, and that's where I kind of journal and have my coffee and quiet time. And that's where I listen to my Lauren Daigle soundtrack on repeat and just get close with God and start my day with intentionality. And my verse of the day on my Bible app popped up, and I started sobbing, hysterically sobbing, because I had found out that I was reading into living lighter as letting go and loosening up the reins and, stop being in control and carrying so much stress, to John 12:35-36. For a brief time still, the light is among you. Walk by the light you have, so darkness doesn't destroy you. If you walk in darkness, you don't know where you're going. As you have the light, believe in the light. Then the light will be within you and shining through your lives. You'll be children of the light. And holy cow, feeling that push and that calling just so blatantly clear in a business coaching meeting and then pouring into my life, it really does touch every aspect, and not just living lighter, but I was trying to control every little aspect of my life. But literally the Lord was telling me, stop walking in the darkness, turn towards the light, and then you'll be a child of the light, and just having that joy within instead of searching for it in every aspect. And literally living lighter took a whole new meaning in my life. And it's just crazy to think about that, how the smallest little nudges and the smallest little sayings or signs ideally just come into play. And if you listen and you stay close to God and obey, then you can hear him. And that was probably the most profound moment that I've had and witnessed, because I was working on my relationship with him. And as I was going through that and struggling with that and battling with all these panic attacks and anxiety and stress, he just put his arms around me and said, child, I've got you. Whether that's in business or in life or anything, I eventually stopped having panic attacks and just began to really live lighter. It was amazing.
So do you feel like there were some specific things that he impressed upon you, like, I want you to do this and not do this, or can you talk practically how that manifested in your life?
Yeah, I think it applied a lot to just my daily routine. So before we started recording, we were talking about just doing a social media cleanse and letting go of a lot of that stress. And so I would see things online and I just carry them with me throughout my day. So I gave up social media for a couple months and truly began to live lighter, because I wasn't consuming all of this content that made me either sad or tried to remember or carrying other people's burdens. I kept doing the morning coffee with Jesus. Our pastor always talks about that, and it always feels silly to say, but it's the best coffee date I've ever had. So I kept doing those. And I was going through a Bible study at the time, the Armor of God Bible study. And it was incredible to just see how once my brain was triggered to focus on the light and staying away from the darkness and having the light within you, I was reading all these other verses and they just still resonated with that concept. So it literally became my life mantra of just living lighter. But all the way to my relationships too. I didn't take my business relationships so burdened, I guess. I let God work in them. I prayed before I sent proposals, before I would be like shaking before I'd hit send. I'd white knuckle my hands and like clench my jaw, and my massage therapist was like, "What is wrong with you?" But it was just like my whole body finally just relaxed. And it was just really knowing that if it's meant to be, and it's meant to be in the light, then it will happen. And it was truly just being able to let go of a lot of stuff.
That's huge. And I think what I heard you say, the term you used was once my brain was triggered, which is awesome because scripture talks about renewing your mind. And that's exactly what this verse did for you. Even I told you earlier, as I looked at Live Lighter, I was like, oh, what, you're going to become a minimalist now? Like, but it was so not about that. It was about being in Christ and know, like, he is the light and the truth and the way. And so it sounds like he has shown you the way out of that darkness. And that is so beautiful and biblical. And I love that you have that story to share now of how he did that.
And it's amazing. I mean, like we said, like once your mind is programmed or triggered to like pick up on things, I hear it everywhere. Like around Christmas time, one of my friends, she's a calligrapher and does incredible work. And she did a piece that said, "Let your heart be light," because it's a Christmas song. And I was like, I saw it and was almost in tears because it resonated so much to me. And she was like so confused of why I was crying when I saw it. But I mean, it's just insane to see how it really does just affect in like little reminders once you can find that mantra to live by, and how you can feel God speak to you specifically. It really does just kind of, it makes it feel like God is more of a best friend than a figure that I used to try to get to know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think since then too, I've had a couple of people just say like, "There's just a light about you," and oh my word, if you were to just like go from 0 to 100 and have me cry, like, there's just a light about you. I mean, that new song, the Christian song about the leaving a legacy. I want them to see you in me, not leaving my legacy. And I just feel like if I can let people see the light within me, then they can see the light within themselves, because that light for me is Jesus.
Hey friends, I'm interrupting this interview for just a quick minute for something really important. If you follow me over on Instagram, you know I've been talking about how frustrating it is that podcasting is such a one-directional communication tool. I so want to know you, connect with you, hear all about your dreams and challenges. So I have created a short listener survey that I would love to have your responses on. It'll take less than 3 minutes, and it'll help me so much to get to know who's listening to the show, a little bit more about you, your interests, and how I can serve you better. Take the survey and you'll be entered to win either a $10 Amazon gift card or your very own Devoted Dreamers coffee or tea mug. And if you win, you'll get to choose which one you want. Ready to take the survey now? Or when you're done listening to this episode, the link is at the top of the show description in your app. It's in the show notes, or you can go there directly at bit.ly/Hello Dreamer. That's bit.ly/Hello Dreamer. It sounds like you've really had just like a faith transformation in the midst of the last 2 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, when we first talked, I knew that I needed to trust God, and because I was jumping into such a scary season, and when you literally don't have another choice, but I was still fairly new to my faith. And so I knew that I would pray before things, and I'd be like, "Lord, just let this go in your hands." But in the back of my mind, I was like, but I have to do the hard work. I have to put in the hours. And I still believe that, but more that if it's meant to work out, it will. And God will honor hard work and honesty. But when I was starting out, I was like, I know that he says that he's got this, but I don't know that I necessarily believed it to my core. And it was that kind of skeptic attitude that made me have to rethink a lot of things. But like I said, going through all of this whole season and leaping out in faith, and then truly believing that he's got whatever happens beyond what I can do. I can't do it on my own, and you can't do it on your own. And it's just, you really don't have a choice but to trust that he's got it. And if you try to take the burden on yourself, then here come the panic attacks, and here come I would never wish that on my worst enemy, but your body doesn't know how to handle it, and your mind doesn't, because it's not meant to. You're meant to give it to God. But the transformation has been incredible. And actually, my fiance and I got baptized in October.
Oh, awesome.
At our church. It was beautiful. So
I love it.
It's great.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You'll have a new name.
Getting engaged.
What?
For being baptized or getting engaged?
Both. I mean, baptized, yes, but God has already begun to change your heart, right? Like, the baptism doesn't mean all of a sudden then you're saved. It's like, no, God's changing your heart. And so I'll say to God, congratulations for capturing Amber's heart. But yeah, congratulations on your engagement too. That's been really fun to watch online and see you guys. You're very cute together.
Oh, thank you.
And I know that was a desire of your heart too.
Oh, yes. I think I mentioned, I had met him probably, our first date was like right before our last chat, the last podcast episode.
Okay.
So I had obviously like just quit my job, and all of this changed, and I was like, I can't date right now. So I just kind of took a time out I was 24 and I was desperate to find love. So I was on all of the Bumble and Tinders and all of the like Coffee Meets Bagel, all of the apps, and just trying to meet someone that would, root me on and be that person in my corner. And I've never been really good about patiently waiting for love to knock on my door. And so I just made the jump to like go on a date with like a very cute, handsome, tall man, tall, dark, and handsome man. And we ended up just completely falling for each other. And it's incredible because I look back and I read my journals, and literally, I quit my job. I finally listened, and I walked in my path of where God was calling me. And then literally 3 months later, after finally obeying and listening, and I was getting off the ground and getting more clients and working through what in the world I was doing with my life. And then he puts my future husband in my life immediately. I mean, when I look back and read that season and think about that season, it was like bing, bang, boom, because God was like, thank you for finally listening to me and obeying. And here are the things that you've been asking for, because you've been so good to listen to me.
Yeah. And not that like he holds that over you.
No way. No. I didn't mean to play that at all.
Yeah. But it is so, I mean, I think I hear you talking too about like, you said whiteknuckling earlier, and I know I did that a ton as a single person. Like, if I could just control this, then I would be married, but having that openness to receive what he's already planned on giving you is a totally different perspective than like, I've got to make this happen for myself, So, and I always
finally just not given up on it, but just had to take a step back because I had bigger priorities in my life. So I finally had no choice but to unleash that white knuckle that I had on being single.
Yeah.
I was very restless as a single, like
me too.
All the years of it.
And it doesn't serve you.
Yeah. It doesn't do anything but stress you out. But it's so easy to say that now. But I remember when people would tell me that advice, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Easy for you to say,
Right. You're already married.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
So it's been great though, just kind of to be a testimony to some of my girlfriends that are going through challenging times right now too, of wrestling with being single or feeling stirring in their heart. I'm like, you're not meant to meet him yet, because you're meant to do more first. And it's easier, like we said, to say than to believe. But when I finally saw it in my own life, and literally the immediate like turning around and trusting him and then letting go of all of that and letting him work instead of me trying to hustle and go on all these dates and responding back within 20 minutes. Now that I can share that story with my friends, they are more open to the adventure that awaits for them first and then meeting him.
I love that you said turning around and trusting him, because that is a form of repentance, turning away from the things that were not of him, that were not pointing you to the light, and then walking in the light, which is really sweet. It's such a more peaceful place to function from.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And it's hard when you're so in the thick of the darkness, or in the
Can't even see
of stress. Yeah, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I love that analogy now, but it's almost like when you're in that thick and a friend invites you to church and you're like, I don't want to go to church. I don't have time to go to church, especially if you're not maybe practicing your faith. But it's like he's trying to give you that light at the end of the tunnel. He's giving you opportunities to get out of the darkness. But when we bury ourselves so much into the darkness, you don't let yourself see that light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that was one of the biggest learning lessons too, of just being aware of where he was giving me my safety net, my rescue, and finally following with where people were leading me.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned in the notes just that it's been so helpful to have girlfriends who can be that support for your faith, and talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think I've always been one to just have a good network of friends, and just maybe that's my personality of just I'm a complete extrovert, one in and out 100%, and so always been loved and loved to be surrounded by people. And I think going through entrepreneurship has been really hard because it really is just like me and my computer a lot of days, especially starting out. And so I really needed to get out of my house, put makeup on, and change out of my workout clothes and go see humans and build relationships. And it was really hard because a lot of the friends that I had made, through working a full-time job and probably being single, a lot of those friendships kind of fizzled out because they didn't understand the stresses that I was going in or what I was dealing with. Not just as an entrepreneur, but just in my heart, where I was wrestling with a lot of stuff. And when you own a business, you can't just randomly pick up and go travel spontaneously unless you organize your business, which luckily I've done a little better job of doing that now. Or you can't just grab happy hour drinks at 4:00 because you still have work to do. There's a lot more stress and anxiety that comes with it, and pressure, I guess, that mainly we put on ourselves. But I was fortunate enough to come upon a group called the Society of Women Business Owners. And I realized that it wasn't necessarily faith-based, but a lot of the women in there were women of faith who also owned businesses. And I naturally clicked with these women, and I essentially found an incredible group of friends within that who believed that God was going to lead them into the light and with their journey of also jumping out and starting a business, and how it's affected their marriages and friendships. And I mean, like we said earlier, it affects every aspect of your life. So I became surrounded by people that just got it. They just understood me. And whether you're newly starting a business or you're a new mom or you're new to a part of town, I feel like finding people that also are believers, I mean, just to have your back and remind you when you become unweary and not really sure which direction to go, it's always good to just have that like little reminder when you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. That's great. We all need that. We need that community and people in our lives and people who know us well enough to kind of be like, hey, you're kind of veering off the path. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to give you a chance to talk about just kind of the work that you guys are doing right now, and if there's anyone listening who might be interested in your brand consultations, So can you share how people can learn more about you there?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, like I said, we're specializing in branding, mainly for small to medium-sized businesses, and we love working with people with heart. So the way that we do our branding process is we ask you why you started your business. It's based off the Simon Sinek model of start with why. And we go from there. So we find the heartbeat of your business within our branding questionnaire and our brand consultation that we do before we start the project with you. And so what we found is that we can serve a lot more people when we do consultations. So not everyone can necessarily afford to work with us, or if they're newly into their business, it's not a right financial time. And so I wanted to be able to serve more people, but still be able to control the process and make sure that they're getting the quality that they deserve. And so we just started offering brand consultations and brand audits for people who have existing businesses and brands. So with the consultation, it's just a one-on-one call, and we send you the questionnaire beforehand, and you fill it all out, and then we hop on the call, and I essentially just dissect everything in your brand and ask you what you're struggling with and kind of help you have that outsider's professional opinion of how to make that next step. And then usually from those, I mean, we've given you all the steps, and whether you want to take it and run on your own and go ahead and implement that into your business, or come back and work with us for branding services, we'd be happy to do that. So we just like to give the people that come into our door the tools to empower them. And so we never have believed in holding you accountable or charging nickel and diming for things. We really just want to help with the heart of your business and see everyone flourish. So doing the consultations or the consultation and brand audit is kind of the best way that we've found to do that. And then we also have 3 different brand packages that we dissect based on what your needs are. So if you're starting out, we recommend the smallest, and we kind of walk through that whole process and get you enough tools to get off the ground, and you can kind of bootstrap from there if you're getting started. And then our medium package, we have more of a styling. So you already know who you are, your mission statement. You just really haven't had a cohesive look in your business. And so that's where, like what we did for Devoted Dreamers, we do all of the styling, the logo, brand patterns, and flesh out what your brand would look like with some collateral pieces, but not really doing any of the copywriting work. So that's all you already have established. And that's always really great for if you're in your business and you've been in it for a couple years and you just need a good refresh or restyling. That's always a great place to start. And
That's
then
awesome.
our largest package is where we do the whole shebang. So we're writing your mission statement, your core values. We're developing all your collateral pieces. We even go through and design your social feed of what that should look like and what you should probably, the content you should be posting about. We give you buckets for that. So it's around like a 15 to 20 page PDF document, and it has, we call it your brand Bible. So everything that you'd ever need, and you should always refer back to that, is in your brand Bible. So yeah, that's the ways to work with us at Copperheart. And again, the consultations are with me directly. So you'd be talking to me, not anyone on our team. And then from there, we can just see what works best for you.
Awesome. Well, I will put a link to that in the show notes so that people can get to you and make that appointment if that's something they want to do.
Thank you.
So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Well, Amber, this has been super fun. I'm so glad we kind of got to be reunited here 2 years later.
Yes.
Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Such good change.
Oh my gosh.
Like I said, it's like going back and listening to the old podcast was like, it was like documenting a season of my life. And then it was insanely humbling and very emotional to hear it now. I can't wait to hear this one and just kind of compare side by side. And if they've been following my journey on social media or anything like that too, then they've probably seen a lot of the changes over the past 2 years. And I just root for anyone who's listening in all of their seasons and challenging moments to walk in the light right now too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to have you close us out with just a minute of reflection on, I know we've been talking about this the whole time, but really, how can you summarize, since we last talked, since you stepped out in faith, even, in 2016 to quit your job, how has God changed you?
Oh boy. It's just, he's truly done a full heart transformation over the past 2 years. And when I started my business, I said that I design with heart for people with heart. But now that I've seen the true heart of not just my business, but of the world, and just of how Jesus made my heart so tender for people and their passions and to serve, it's made me not only closer with him, but the people around me, the people I'm serving, and with myself. I've never been more comfortable in my own skin. And I feel like in nowadays, it's really hard to say that. And I attribute that all to walking in my light, in his light, and knowing how to go about my day based on staying close to him, and knowing my morals, and knowing my heart, and knowing what he has in store for me, and just trusting that he would provide. So I guess he's changed me by fully transforming my heart.
If you have ever wondered how to intersect your faith with your work, this was the episode for you. It was so fun to reconnect with Amber for this follow-up interview. And if you haven't already heard it, you may want to go back and listen to her episode 32. That was her first interview here on the Devoted Dreamers podcast, so you can get a real grasp of how far she's come with this dream. But hold on a second before you do that. Here are my takeaways from this conversation. Number one, that it's super important to be clear about who you are and who you aren't. And that can be so helpful as you pursue your dream and begin to talk to people about your dream. And that may not be something that comes super easy or right off the top of your head. I'm pretty sure that Amber and her team had to work for it. But I love how she described that process of narrowing down what Copperheart Creative is all about and what they can help you do. And it's super, super clear, so that when you hear from them, and specifically from her about what they're doing, helping with branding, that it's really, really clear, and their audience is like, oh yes, either I need you or I already have that covered or whatever. But being clear about who you are and what your dream is so helpful as you move forward. Takeaway number 2. I love what she learned from trying to control everything, and kind of sadly, unfortunately, how that impacted her personally. Trying to do that. I mean, we know intellectually, mentally, that it's really not possible for us to be in control of all things, and that it really is best to let God take the wheel, as they say. But it's not all that easy to do this either. And I think it was pretty clear, and you'll know too, if you're trying to control all the things, because the anxiety, just the panic, it all just kind of begins to take over. And then when you're letting him have it, that tends to dissipate. And I can see that in my life, like on a moment by moment basis, or in a much bigger, grand scheme of things about my dream. So ask yourself that question. What are you trying to control, and what do you need to kind of loosen the reins on? And then finally, takeaway number 3, how important it is to find people to walk with you on this journey of pursuing your dream. It can be so lonely if you try to do it alone. I certainly can speak for experience on that. And it doesn't actually have to be someone who is face to face with you. That's so wonderful if it can be. But I have connected with people on Voxer or Marco Polo, on Instagram Messenger, just ways that other women and I can support one another as we walk forward in pursuing our dreams. So figure out who your people are and ask them, be intentional to ask people to walk with you on this journey. So more than 70 listeners have left a review of this show in iTunes, which is so awesome. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't, it's super easy. You just click on ratings and reviews in your podcast app to share your thoughts about the show. And I've got a recent one from Jules EW entitled Encouraging and Uplifting. Here's what she says. I found this podcast a few months ago. Merritt boldly puts the challenge out there for women to find their God-shaped dreams. Each episode, she talks with women following their dreams. They discuss challenges, nuggets of wisdom, encouragement for when the going gets tough, and God as the dream giver. I love that she offers this space for us to talk about our dreams. Where else in life do we get this opportunity? I find it rare. I also love Merritt's genuine and open style of interviewing and connecting to her audience. She feels like a personal friend, even though we've never met. Give this podcast a listen. You won't be disappointed. Okay, let me tell you, somebody who comes to iTunes and sees that review and is someone like you, someone who's got a dream, someone who is walking with the Lord and needs the kind of support that we offer here, they're going to read that review and be like, yeah, this show's for me. So it's super fun to hear from you, and it is so encouraging to the other women out there who haven't yet found the show and who are like scrolling through reviews trying to figure out if Devoted Dreamers is a place where they can begin. So share your thoughts over in ratings and reviews in the iTunes app. I have just one other ask of you today, and you heard it earlier. I would love to hear from you via my audience survey. I have extended your chance to respond all the way to Monday, April 15th, which of course, is tax day, and it'll take you less than 5 minutes. I mean, really simple questions at the beginning, demographic stuff, and then just a little bit more about what other podcasts you listen to, what you like about the show. It would mean the world to me to hear from you and help me get to know a little bit about you so that I would know who's listening to the show. So guys, that link again, here it is, write it down. It's bit.ly/Hello Dreamer, all one word, all lowercase. It's linked in the show description in your app, as well as in the show notes. I would so love to hear from you by April 15th. If you could please hop on there and give me your thoughts. You will find the show notes for this episode at merittonsa.com/podcast/114. You can connect with Amber there and find all the topics we referenced in today's interview, including that link to her first interview here on Devoted Dreamers. That is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. And wherever you are with your God-shaped dreams, may you have the courage to take one step toward their realization today. I'll see you next week.
Whoa.